Hey everyone, welcome back to Champion the Passion, a weekly pro wrestling podcast where we inspire you to champion your passions and celebrate the joy in what you love. I'm your host, my name is Victoria Daisy, and today we're going to be recapping everything that happened last night on NXT. But before we dive deeper, don't forget to follow me at It's Victoria Daisy across all social platforms and follow Champion the Passion across all streaming platforms. Leave a 5-star review if you enjoyed, but let's get right into the first match. This was crazy, okay? This was an insane match. We had Julia and Bayley tag teaming against Roxanne Perez and Cora Jade. This was a really good match. I loved the great teamwork between Bayley and Julia. There was lots of fun and cool moves. I was just obsessed. Okay, you guys know how much I hate Roxanne Perez, but I love all the other women in this match. All of these women, besides Roxanne, in my opinion, are great and work so well all together in the ring. Now, of course, I have to mention Roxanne had her botches, per usual, nothing new. Not as many as normal, which, like, okay, go off queen, like, you're not botching as much, but, like, okay, anyways, crickets. There was one point in the match, though, that Roxanne mocked Bayley and paid for it right after, which was so fabulous to watch. And Julia, let me just say, Julia is so impressive. It's actually crazy. I mean, I know she had a great career in Japan and did so many great things there, but I think she's going to do just as well here, if not better. And I see a lot of gold in her future. I see a lot of greatness in her future, if you will. And in the end, Bayley and Julia picked up that W. I was so happy. But after the match, Bayley and Julia shook hands, good sportsmanship. But after that, Bayley just stood there and stared at Julia's NXT Women's Championship. So could they be teasing a future run for Bayley? Are we better run it back? I don't know. I was like, it wasn't like a I'm gonna take your title, but she just stared at it. Kind of like is gazed the right word? She kind of gazed at it. I don't know. She just like looked at it. Like, I've never seen you before, even though she kind of has. Different title look, but I don't know. I think it would be fun and interesting. Then we moved on into a segment, which was really fun. We had the Grayson Waller effect. So Austin Theory, Grayson Waller were there interviewing Oba Femi. So, Oba gets out there. One thing I thought was so funny, and you could kind of see it from the overall view of the arena that they were at. Oba Femi, his music is a vibe. Okay, we love Oba Femi. We love his music. He gets a little dance in, if you will, if you know his entrance. And during one of the overhead shots of the arena, you could see Grayson Waller and Austin Theory dancing in the ring while the lights were kind of low, but you could see their shadows. It was so funny. So Grayson and Austin start the Grayson Waller effect by praising Oba for his accomplishments. But then Oba gets offended because he said the only reason he was invited on the show was for them to tell him that he had no potential. But then our king clocked them by saying, well, I never saw either of you as NXT champions. Pause. Grayson and Austin did their Grayson and Austin thing. They praised him. And then they were like, you know what? But we knew you never had potential, which makes no sense because he's literally holding the NXT championship. Like, whatever. They're a little bit cuckoo in the head, if you will. They were like, the whole crowd sees you with potential, but we don't because their approval matters, ? Like, no, it literally does not. And then Oba, he just got offended. Whatever. Then this is a direct quote from Oba. He said, I think it's safe to say in the 2 years I've been here, I've accomplished more than both of you combined. Austin says that him and Grayson are on the big leagues. He said, maybe one day you'll be the first round draft pick, but it won't be long until he's just sitting and catering. I don't know how Oba is going to shape up on the main roster. I mean, sometimes we have great NXT call-ups that, they do well for themselves, like LA Knight, for example, right? And then you have people like Kiana James comes to mind, literally stuck in catering. Where is she? That girl has not been on TV since last WrestleMania season when she got drafted. She may be at a match or two, and that was about it. I mean, I think she's still with the company. I'm pretty sure she is. So it was pretty crazy. Then the crowd started chanting, turn on Grayson. This is while Austin was talking, the crowd was chanting "Turn on Grayson," which was absolutely hysterical. And both Grayson and Austin broke character for a minute to start laughing because it was just amazing. I mean, we've wanted a Theory heel turn for a while, so I'm happy that the fans are finally making their voices heard. Like, hello? Go off. Then Obafemi said, end quote, "Their big mouths write checks that their hands can't cash." I've never heard that saying before, but that ate. Then Oba challenges one of them to a title match at Vengeance Day. And this is where it gets a little interesting, kind of playing in the ironic timing of that "Turn on Grayson" chant. Grayson was so quick to try and take that opportunity away from Austin. So the timing, like I said, was just impeccable of that chant from the crowd. I mean, that was really great because even Austin was just standing there like, okay, I didn't even have a chance to process and think what he just said to see if I even wanted that title opportunity. But then Ava comes out and interrupts, our queen, we stan her, and she reminds Oba that he's not the one who makes the matches around here. But Trick Williams comes out, and he had a face-to-face with Obafemi, and then they all kind of started beating each other up. And that turns into a match for Vengeance Day and next week, later in the night, which we'll talk about then. Then we had a pretty interesting segment. I would love to say it was backstage, but it actually wasn't. It was not in the ring. I don't know. It was like kind of in the crowd. There's like a pocket where you can kind of just stand, I guess. And it was with Izzy Dame. Now, if you've been following along NXT for the last few weeks, you know that there's been some interesting funny business going on between her and the D'Angelo family, specifically Tony D'Angelo. And Sarah Schreiber asked Izzy Dame what was going on between them. Some interesting things have happened. We've caught her talking to him and vice versa. And Izzy responds and says nothing is going on between her and Tony. She says that they aren't even friends. They just share a common enemy in Shawn Spears. She said he came to her defense when he was stalking her, so she made sure that he held on to that title a little bit longer. And then right after she said that, Ridge Holland interrupts her. Ridge calls her a liar because she cost him the match. Then Stax comes in and says, that's not how you treat a lady. So both men got heated, and then they ended up having to be separated. And I wouldn't be surprised if we ended up seeing a match between the two, which later got announced following later in the night. Then we get into a match between two NXT pioneers, if you will, of this new generation. We have Trick Williams versus Wes Lee. Now, Wes Lee capitalized on Trick already being worn down by Obafemi in the beginning of the match, which I loved. It was a classic match between two NXT classics. And I hate to keep using the word classic again, but this was just a classic battle of power and speed, which is something we see a lot in wrestling that I absolutely love. Now, the ending of the match, however, was not a classic ending. Trick got disqualified from the match because he shoved the referee to the ground. Then Trick started literally crashing out in the ring by banging a chair on the ring mat. And I thought that was really funny. I hope somebody makes an edit of that on Twitter because it was hysterical. And I was kind of disappointed that that's how the match ended because I thought it was a really good match, especially between those two. I mean, there's two of the best in NXT, and I wanted it to be longer and it was shorter. And then that ending wasn't very pleasing, but I hope we get a rematch at some point. Then we travel backstage for an Ava segment. So Obafemi was there and he was mad that she didn't make the match and basically telling her to do her job. Ava, being the queen she is, she put her foot down and said, and quote, "Stop trying to overstep me." You tell him, sister. She told Oba at Vengeance Day it's going to be him versus Oba. It's going to be him versus Grayson versus Austin in a triple threat match for the NXT Championship. Then Ava leaves to go find Trick. She finds him and tells him the news, and he got mad, asking why did they deserve this over him. Ava tells him that next week it will be Trick versus Oba. Ava tells him that next week it will be a tag match, Trick and Oba versus Austin and Grayson. Ava is such a baddie, and we stan her here. Okay, this is an Ava stan account. Okay, we love her. She's such a baddie, literally. And she put her foot down. She made those matches, and she didn't care if they liked it or not. I mean, you get what you get, and you don't get upset. It's kind of how the game works. Then we transitioned into a match that I thought was honestly like pretty good. It was the Women's North American Championship was on the line. Fallon Henley defending against Shotzi. Now, this was a much better match than I could have ever anticipated, to be honest. Shotzi has always had really cool move sets, and has always brought a lot of fun energy. But last night was just different. I thought she worked really well in the ring with Fallon. And let me just talk about Fallon really quick. Fallon is so underrated. Okay, we don't talk about her enough. She did so many cool moves that I've never seen before, not just from her, but in general. So she definitely deserves a long title reign, but I digress. I'll come back to the thought in 1 second. So Fallon Henley retains, right? And the crowd was giving Fallon mega heat after the match. And let me just say, first of all, she's a great heel. And then this is where I come back to that thought I just had a few seconds ago where I said she deserves a longer title reign, because then Stephanie Vaquer interrupts and they had an intense stare down. And this is what makes me believe that she's not going to have a long title reign. And I'm conflicted. It's bittersweet, because while I want Fallon Henley to have a long title reign, and while I think she deserves it, I don't think she will when Stephanie Vaquer is literally right in front of her, unless they continue that storyline and drag it out further, which I hope they don't do. But at the same time, like, Fallon deserves a proper title reign. I don't know. Then we head backstage once again for Ava's segment. Ava tries to announce that Julia's next title defense. All right. Then we head backstage for an Ava backstage segment. We love to see it. There were so many. You could argue that there are way too many Ava backstage segments, but you know, you got to continue the story of what's going on. And this one is a very pivotal segment and a very important storyline. So Ava tries to announce to Shara Schreiber and literally the entire NXT universe that Julia's next title defense is ... Before she could even say it, Roxanne Perez and Cora Jade interrupt, and Roxanne comes in angry, complaining on how Ava is going to make a match between Julia and Bayley, and she's not a part of it. Here's a pivotal part. Roxanne tells Ava to not put the blame on her because Cora got pinned and not her. Putting your friend under the bus like that is not cool. That is not a good friend. And I wonder if we will see a turn between the two at some point again. I mean, we know they were best friends, then one turned, and then this whole thing happened. And I wonder if we'll see that again. Cora looked pissed after Roxanne made that comment. And then Ava announced that at Vengeance Day, it will be a triple threat match for Julia's NXT Women's Championship. It will be Julia versus Bayley versus Roxanne. And so Roxanne's like, okay, cool, great, I'm in the match. And Roxanne aggressively turns around and says, no, we're not good. And she left, and she put her foot down and she ate that up. Roxanne looked confused because obviously, hello, that's what a delusionally bad friend looks like after saying something like that. I don't know. That was very interesting. I really enjoyed that backstage segment because, like I said, it's very pivotal to the storyline between Roxanne and Cora. And with Roxanne kind of on the verge of a call-up, whether I agree with it or not, you know, she is on the verge of a call-up. She's done everything possible in NXT. There's nothing left for her to do. And, you know, the next best thing is to move upwards. And so I wonder if we'll see her at the Royal Rumble this weekend. But besides that, it looks like she'll be staying in NXT for a little bit longer. So then we move into an Ethan Page versus Cedric Alexander match. And to be honest, it was an okay match. Like, it was fine. Nothing crazy. Ethan Page won. But after the match, Ethan tried to injure Cedric again, but then Javon Evans came out for the save, and even though he's not medically cleared, his jaw is still literally closed shut. He went out there and did his thing. Then we transition into a Fatal Influence backstage segment. So they were basically, it was kind of chaotic. Okay, there's a lot going on. Fallon was basically, you know, just talking about how she understands that Stephanie is coming after her. And one thing I found interesting is that JC Jane always tried to talk for Fallon, and Fallon didn't quite seem to like that. So they were putting each other in situations kind of in a little bit, in a way. I don't know. It was very interesting. It was very short, so I don't have much to talk about with this segment, but it was definitely interesting. I have a feeling that Fallon might turn on JC and Jasmine sooner rather than later. I know Fatal Influence has been doing so well, but I don't know. I was getting weird vibes from that segment. Anyways, transitioning into the main event, this was the match I was most looking forward to the whole night. We had the Women's Tag Team Championships on the line. Bianca Belair and Naomi defending against Lash Legend and Jakara Jackson. Now, this was an incredible match. I mean, I knew it was going to be good, but not that great. Like, it was amazing. I was like, okay, queens, you better work. So Lash and Bianca, let me just say, that is something that I have wanted to see for a while. Their in-ring chemistry is electric. And if you don't believe me, go rewatch that match or go watch that match in the first place if you haven't. But one thing I thought was cool is Bianca's not used to being overpowered by women, and Lash is bigger than Bianca. And so getting to see powerhouse versus powerhouse was amazing. But Bianca handled it like a champ, no pun intended. All four of these women absolutely shined in this match, and I honestly could praise it all day. It was just that good in my opinion. I mean, I just saw so many cool moves, and they gave it a nice runtime. I didn't count how long it was, but it felt like maybe 15 minutes, which usually that's how long the main event slot is, but I don't know, maybe it felt a little bit longer. I don't know if it was just me. In the end, Bianca Belair and Naomi retained their titles. And before I get into my overall thoughts, something happened at the very, very, very end of NXT once it went off air. It was about 10 seconds long. It was a screen that popped up on the TV. And I want to talk about it really quick because it was really strange. So if you guys have seen, you know, when somebody goes beep and like, but if you're watching it, it's like that multicolored striped, I don't even know what you would call it, whatever. That came on the screen and it said WWE transmission. And I was like, okay, that's weird. That's interesting. I just thought maybe like sometimes that happens at the end of shows where it'll just do that maybe to fill up the extra gap of time. I don't really know. I just thought whatever. But then I heard a typewriter erasing the letters and then retyping Vengeance Day. And I thought, okay, that's really weird. Why would it do that? And I didn't understand what that meant until I saw a creator on TikTok. I do not remember his name. I apologize. He came up with this theory that what if it's the Hardys? If you guys remember back in the day, Matt Hardy's theme song started with the typewriter and it sounded identical to that. So what if that's an Easter egg? What if they're hinting at a Matt Hardy, Jeff Hardy, Hardy Boys return? I mean, Fraxium has already gone over to TNA and fought the Rascals. So what if we get the Hardys champion versus champion? Or champions versus champions? Maybe not for the titles, but the Hardys versus Fraxium. I don't know. That was just a random thought I had. And I loved that theory from that creator on TikTok. And I thought it was great. So can we see the Hardys at Vengeance Day? I don't know. I think it would be pretty cool if we did. And it's kind of making the reality of them showing up at the Royal Rumble this weekend even more real. So I love that for me because I'll be there. But now into my overall thoughts. I thought it was a great show, to be quite honest with you. I love when they take NXT on the road, first of all, and bring vets to uplift the younger talent. I thought it was so amazing. And it was so good to see Bayley, Bianca, Naomi have these really awesome matches with these up-and-coming stars and bringing more attention to NXT to maybe casual watchers or people who just don't watch all the time. I would say my match of the night was obviously the women's tag team championship match. All four of those women together are electric. Okay. And it was even better than I could ever imagine, to be quite honest with you. I knew Bianca and Naomi were going to deliver, and I knew to a degree Lash and Jakara would, but they really stepped it up a notch, and I mean a big step. It was so good. And then my segment of the night, I would say, was the Grayson Waller effect. I thought it was so good, to be honest. I love all of them. So that's just this is all personal, my opinion, if you will. I loved the back and forth between the guys and Oba, loved the teasing of Austin turning on Grayson and the match that came out of it, or matches, I should say, because kind of Trick was intertwined in all of that. Overall, I would rate the show about an 8 out of 10. I think we've got lots to look forward to next week, and there's a stacked card already forming for Vengeance Day and next week. And last night was just the beginning of all of that. And I think they should take NXT more on the road. I mean, I love getting to see them at the PC, but it's what's best for business. And I overall just really enjoyed NXT. I cannot wait to see what happens at Vengeance Day. I mean, I think they're already teasing so much, but thank you guys so much for watching and listening to this episode of Champion the Passion. If you liked it, make sure to leave a 5-star review. Follow me at It's Victoria Daisy across all social platforms, and follow Champion the Passion across all streaming platforms. Don't forget to champion your passions and celebrate the joy in what you love. I will see you guys in my next episode. Bye.